Happy New Year's Eve, everyone. Ready for a crypto recap to end 2024?
Absolutely.
Buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into the biggest crypto stories of the year. From Bitcoin hitting crazy predictions to do Kwon finally facing justice and NFTs going way beyond, those bored apes we talked about. It's been a wild ride, and to help us break it all down, we have our amazing expert with us, ready to unpack all this.
Yeah, I think it's been a year of, massive growth and some crazy moments for sure. But the exciting thing is it's not just about, the price going up and down anymore. We're seeing like real uses for crypto popping up all over, which is what makes it so interesting.
Okay, so let's start with the overall market. The report we have says the total crypto market cap is a mind-blowing $3.3 trillion. That's a huge jump from where we were last year.
Yeah, it just shows how much interest there is in crypto. But get this, stable coins are like taking over the trading volume. They make up almost 93% of it.
93%. Wow. So why is that? Are people just scared of risk, or is there something else going on?
Well, it's kind of a few things happening at once. Some people want that stability, especially with the economy being so shaky. But it also shows that people are starting to use crypto for everyday things. Stable coins are like that bridge between regular money and crypto, so it makes them perfect for, just using them daily.
Makes sense. But do you think all this stablecoin stuff could attract unwanted attention, from regulators who might see it as competition?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Regulators are watching crypto really closely, and all these stablecoins could mean more rules and control coming.
Gotcha. All right, let's move on to the king, Bitcoin. Analysts are saying it could hit $120,000 in January. They're pointing to the huge stablecoin reserves on Binance. Those are around $45 billion. Do you think those reserves could really push Bitcoin that high?
You got to remember, predicting crypto prices is super hard. Yeah, it could surge, but those stablecoin reserves don't guarantee anything. I mean, they could make people buy more Bitcoin, but
Right.
other stuff like regulations or what's happening in the world can really change things too.
So maybe those predictions are a little too optimistic. But here's something interesting. MicroStrategy, that company that put everything into Bitcoin, their stock is tanking down 46% since November. Is that a bad sign for Bitcoin, or just, a company making a bad bet?
It's kind of a reality check, It shows that putting all your money in one thing, even Bitcoin, is super risky. Their plan was bold, but when the market went down, they lost a lot. It reminds us that diversifying is the most important thing when you invest. Especially with crypto, things change so fast.
For sure. That's good advice for anyone in crypto. Don't go all in on one thing, even if it seems amazing. Okay, let's switch gears to Ethereum. Stato Research thinks Ether could double next year, maybe even grow more than Bitcoin. Why are they so bullish on it?
Well, Ethereum has some big upgrades coming. They're moving to this thing called sharding. It's basically like splitting up a database so it can process things way faster. And they're also going to proof of stake, which uses way less energy to secure the network.
Less energy and faster transactions. Sounds great. But for those of us who don't speak tech, what does all this mean for the average person?
So imagine buying coffee with crypto. Right now on Ethereum, you might wait forever for it to go through, and the fees are crazy high. But these upgrades could make things so much faster and cheaper, which makes it easier for everyone to use Ethereum every day.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, if it's faster and cheaper, more people would definitely use it. Now let's get into NFTs. They had a massive year with $8.8 billion in sales. But it's not all about those crazy expensive digital art pieces anymore. Right?
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing NFTs being used for real world stuff. Imagine event tickets. You could use an NFT to prove you own it and stop people from faking them. Or managing intellectual property rights. NFTs can securely track who owns what and how it's being used.
So NFTs are getting more practical. Tell us about some of these utility-driven NFTs that really show this change.
Okay, so there's this cool example of using NFTs for supply chain management. Companies can use them to track where their products are going, which makes things more transparent and stops counterfeiting. Also, artists are using NFTs to give their fans a share of future royalties. It creates a whole new way for creators to own their work.
It's really cool to see NFTs go beyond the hype and actually be useful. But let's be real. Crypto isn't always perfect. This year, DeFi had some issues, especially with the Blockchain Association suing the IRS. What's going on there?
Basically, the IRS wants DeFi platforms to give them all sorts of transaction data, and it's causing a lot of problems. The Blockchain Association says this is a huge burden on decentralized platforms. They say it will slow down innovation and could even put user privacy at risk.
So it's like a fight between the whole idea of decentralization and the government wanting to be in control. If the Blockchain Association wins, could that change how decentralized platforms are regulated?
Totally. It could be a huge case for DeFi. If they win, it could limit what the government can do and protect how decentralized these platforms are. But if the IRS wins, we might see way more regulations everywhere, and that could hurt innovation and growth.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. Okay, before we move on, I want to ask you, listener, what are your thoughts on all this? We've talked about Bitcoin maybe going up, but also MicroStrategy stock crashing. It's a lot to think about, especially when you're trying to figure out the crypto market.
Yeah, the big takeaway is that even though you could make a lot of money, there's also a lot of risk. It's so important to do your own research, understand the tech, and don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
Great advice. Now let's go through some other big events from this year. First up, Kwon, the guy behind the Terra Luna collapse, is finally in U.S. custody after being extradited from Montenegro. What do you think about this, and what could it mean for crypto regulations going forward?
Well, it's a big deal for sure. It'll be interesting to see how the U.S. handles this case. It could change how they prosecute crypto crimes in the future and maybe even affect how they regulate the industry.
Absolutely. Next, Binance Labs, the venture capital arm of Binance, is going independent. They're planning to rebrand next year and work separately from the main exchange. Is this just a PR move to avoid regulations or a real step towards being more decentralized?
It's probably a bit of both, to be honest. Binance has had some issues with regulators, so separating could help with that. But it also fits with the whole trend of decentralization in crypto. More and more projects are moving away from being controlled by one entity.
Interesting. And speaking of Binance, remember that Tangem wallet scare earlier this year? That bug could have exposed everyone's seed phrases. I definitely double-checked mine after that. It's a good reminder to everyone out there to be careful and make sure your stuff is secure.
You're so right. As crypto becomes more popular, it's a bigger target for hackers. It's really important to stay informed about those risks and know how to protect yourself.
Okay, last but not least, let's talk about the cyber attack on the U.S. Treasury. China says they didn't do it, but it's scary to think about cybersecurity, especially with crypto becoming more connected to finance. What are your thoughts on this and the growing threat of cyber attacks in the crypto world?
This shows how serious these attacks are getting, especially against important systems. The problem is that everything in finance is connected, including crypto. So if one part is weak, it affects everything else. We need strong cybersecurity, and countries need to work together to stop these risks.
That's a really important point. Cybersecurity is something we all need to be careful about, especially as crypto and traditional finance get closer. So we've covered a lot today, from Bitcoin to Do Kwon and everything in between. What stood out to you the most, listener? Take a moment to think about what really resonated with you as we get ready to talk about what's next for crypto.
For me, it's got to be those utility-driven NFTs. It really feels like the whole industry is growing up, moving past just speculation and into actually helping people and businesses. Like, we're finally seeing what this tech can really do.
I totally agree. Seeing NFTs being used for things like supply chain management and intellectual property is awesome. But for you, listener, what was your biggest takeaway as we wrap up this crypto deep dive? Let's zoom out a bit. What's the bigger picture here? What's the main story of crypto in 2024?
I think it's all about crypto going mainstream. We're seeing big financial institutions paying attention, governments trying to figure out how to regulate it, and every day people are finding new ways to use it in their lives. It's pretty clear that crypto is here to stay.
Yeah, and it's happening so fast. I remember when Bitcoin was this weird thing only tech people talked about. Now we're talking trillions of dollars, and it's being used all over the world. So where do we go from here? What about crypto in 2025? Any bold predictions?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball or anything,
Yeah.
but I think regulations will be a big focus. Governments are realizing they can't just ignore crypto anymore, so we'll probably see more clear rules and frameworks, which could be good and bad. Well, if there are too many rules, it could stifle innovation. But the right balance could help it become more mainstream and accepted. It's a tricky situation. We'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, a little structure could help the industry grow in a healthy way. But too much control could hold it back. What else should we keep an eye on next year? Any trends you're watching?
I think interoperability will be huge. Right now, all these different blockchains are like separate countries, each with their own languages and currencies. But imagine if they could all talk to each other and work together seamlessly.
That would be amazing. Like a universal translator for blockchain.
Exactly. Interoperability would open up so many possibilities. We could transfer assets and data between different chains. And that would lead to all sorts of new applications and uses we can't even think of yet.
Wow. Interoperability definitely goes on my crypto watch list for 2025.
Hmm.
But let's be real. Isn't it super hard to get everyone to work together? I mean, we're talking about different projects, different beliefs, and maybe even competing interests.
Yeah, you're right. It's a massive challenge. But more and more people are realizing that interoperability is key for the future of crypto. We're already seeing projects working towards it, and I think we'll see some big progress in the next few years.
Okay, I'm adding interoperability to my list for sure. Anything else on your radar, or are we ready to send our listeners off into the new year with their heads full of crypto knowledge?
Just one last thought for everyone listening. Don't get lost in all the hype. Crypto is exciting and things change so quickly, but it's important to stay grounded. Do your research, be critical of what you hear, and remember, this tech is still pretty new.
Such great advice. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement, but a little bit of skepticism never hurts. So as we raise a glass to the new year, let's toast to the future of crypto, to responsible innovation and to staying informed in this ever-changing world. What are you toasting to tonight, listener?
Cheers to that.
Happy New Year, everyone. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you back here in 2025 for another deep dive into the world of crypto.